Okay, so let's talk about the rank, starting with Jin Yao and company. Not Jin Yao and company, but still amazing. Hardstock Plat. Then we have the no tier.
Stop the cap.
Lastly, we have the PvE tier, which is literally espers that I'm never gonna draft in RTA or in, point war, knockout, whatever. They are gonna go into PvE. Alright? Let's start with Abigail. So with Abigail, she is up here. You know how to respond according to Abigail. Everyone has played enough games in Point War, in Holo Battle, in RTA. We all know how to handle an Abigail, right? Literally just control her. Then we have Ahmed. Ahmed is going to be here as well next to Abigail because he suffers from the same problem. You can easily control him, and if he keeps missing turns, he's never going to do what he needs to do, right? So that's where he's going to be. Alexa. If you're ever drafting Alexa, you are hardstock flat, in all honesty. She is cool and all, but there are way too many strippers out there. She's very easily counterable. She doesn't provide enough as a supporter. She's just a cheese. Alice is going to be PvE, and Isadora is going to be up here. Still a very good Esper, but not one of the best anymore because of her reso changes. But she's still very usable, especially because she gets speed up. With an Ocean Wave, she's just going to constantly go S3 to S2. Arcana is just a hard no, don't even think about it. SNF is PvE. Ashley is not Jin Yao and company, but still amazing. Actually, you know what? Before I continue, where is Jin Yao? Let's just take her and put her up here, okay? Because that's where she belongs. She is just extremely busted. Doesn't matter if it's an R0 and R6, she does what she does best, which is cleansing all kinds of debuffs because she will take so many turns. If you see an R6 Jin Yao drafted into you, there's a very high chance you are already uncomfortable seeing that Esper being picked against you, right? And no matter what you do, no matter what, you're just going to want to ban it. Alright, moving back to Ashley, she's good, but at the same time she is also very. People usually build her very squishy. Everything is focused into her speed and her attack and her crit damage. So while she's still good, she is a very niche playstyle Esper, right? So she's gonna stay here. Aurelius is a hard no. Like, don't even think about it, basically. Same with Bailuli. Barden is also a hard stock chap Esper because I know there are a lot of people here and they're gonna be in my comments saying, oh, but I use Barden and it does me wonders. Look, man, if you're drafting Barden anywhere past plat, you're probably going to lose a lot of games and you're gonna be back to plat. So that's where it belongs. Berenice, PvE. Biodina is gonna be up here with Jin Yao. Look, if ever anyone has drafted a Biodina into you, there is a very likelihood that you are going to just ban her in your mind already. Doesn't matter if she comes out second pick or third pick, in your mind you've already banned her, or you're gonna try to play around her, right? And if that happens, chances are your entire composition has already been broken apart. So she's gonna be there next to Jin Yao, simply because that she provides the same offensive pressure or presence that just makes you uncomfortable. Bonnie, hardstock plat. She's a stripper that if she does not do her job, she is never gonna do what her actual job is, which is to put a cooldown up on you. So, ew. Brewster is going to be up here. This guy is actually so fucking ridiculous. Like, honest to God. If you see a Brewster drafted into you, you are going to try everything you can to outvalue this guy in your draft. But if you're doing that, your entire composition has already gone whack. Because this guy is never going to be a first pick or a second pick. It's usually a pick 3, 4, 5. So, the second a Brewster is drafted into you, especially if it's an R2 Brewster, you are uncomfortable. I know I am. When I see a Brewster, I just think to myself, can my tank team tank this? Chances are it is not going to. Bryn, PvE. Catherine is just a no. She is like a Jin Yao wannabe, but she's not good enough. So like if you have enough gear to make a Catherine good, you should be able to make your Jin Yao better. Let's put it that way. Cecilia is going to be not Jin Yao and company, but amazing at R0, which is very likely that's what everybody's CC is going to be. If you have an R6 CC, she immediately jumps up here because I don't care what kind of composition you are drafting. If you pick CC, against a cleave player, that cleave player has already banned CC in their mind. So you can pick her as a second pick, and that second pick is already going to force the ban, so you can literally pick whatever the hell you want afterwards. Because what she does at R6 is she buys back the turn you never got, right? But I will assume that everybody here does not have an R6 Cecilia, so she is going to come down here. She still does what she needs to do at a weaker scale, if that makes sense. Celine is PvE, Chalmers PvE, Changpu PvE, Chloe PvE, but I know there are going to be some people out there who will actually try to make Chloe work. And if you try to make Chloe work, that means you're bringing in a hell lot of buffers. That means that you're going to need banning all the strippers you can find under the sun. So if you are drafting her in RTA or PvP, she's going to be here if in RTA. But I'm going to put it in PvE because I'm never drafting Chloe. It's way too hard to set up. Clara is going to be not Jinyu and company, but still amazing. Simply because she does what she needs to do. She is that simple. She does the job and she does the job well. I don't have to explain what Clara does. Everybody knows what Clara does, right? David is a hard no. Don't even bother. Same with Daylon. The twins are going to be in PvE. And Dahlia will be in Heartstock Plat. Like, if you're still drafting Dahlia in this day and age, you either have to be NRG, who is extremely fast to make Dahlia work, or you're just gonna get outsped by, 80% of the player base and lose. Because her base speed is just dog shit. Joza is going to be in PvE. Donar is going to be in Jinyu Yao and company, but still amazing. Especially now that you can get him to R6 for free by just doing, point war. Don't be a lazy fuck. And R6, he gets all those bonus stats and he gets to do a lot of different shenanigans. Like, you can go into an S1. You can start with your S1 with immunity up from Clara or Gabrielle. Hit the Thundercrack, use your S3, cool down the Thundercrack, go back into, your Thunder Blessing mode again. It's that there are so many things you can do with Donar, and if you get Thunder cracked on, one too many times, which will happen because people run him on Astro set now, you are absolutely fucking dead. Drew is going to be PvE, Ira is going to be PvE, Elliot is going to be up here. He is good, okay? He becomes exceptionally better at R6, but at R0, he still does the job that he needs to do well, right? And that is to cool down Espers that has long cooldown times on their skills. So say for example, the best example I can actually bring him in is into JJ and Abigail, because I like bringing, when I see you draft Espers like that, I will bring Elliot into you. So say for example, an Abigail starts the turn with her S1, right? She's just going to do that only once the entire game, because the second my Elliot moves, he is going to permanently put Abigail on such a high cooldown that she's just an S1 bot. So if you know how to draft him well, and he usually does well at like a very tanky bruiser comp, if you draft him well, chances are you win the game by just sheer out value from this one person. Everett is going to be Jinyu Yao and company, because everybody and their mom has an R6 Everett, and if you do not, you are being a lazy little shit. Go and do some farming, okay? This guy, the second he is drafted, you already know that you're going to get counterattacked a bunch, and you're going to have to deal with a lot of misrate up. That means you're going to be missing a lot of the time. So you're going to be drafting Espers that can actually handle Everett pretty well. Meaning you have to change your composition. Like, there's no way you can actually survive an Everett if you're playing a bunch of AoEs. You are just going to get counterattacked to death. He doesn't even need to take a turn to kill you. You're just dead from counterattacks. Fabrice, I'm going to put him in PvE. Falcon is in PvE. Sisters is in PvE, Nua is all the way up here. Like, I think you already know why she's up here, right? The second Nua is drafted into you, it doesn't matter if she was first picked or second picked, you have already banned her in your mind, and you're already playing at a disadvantage. I know this because it happens to me at times as well, right? When I'm not ready to deal against a Nua, I already ban her in my mind. Freddy, PvE. Gabrielle is up here, because if you've been playing the game for a while, you should have an R6 Gabrielle. She was free, and if you don't, then you have just been lazy and you deserve to lose the game. Basically, Gabrielle is so strong because she provides so much defensive capabilities and a defense break, right? So people run her now on Zeus because she is a multi-hitter on all three of her skills. you are going to cop a shitload of stuns off her if you do not bring immunity. And it gets relatively frustrating to a point where Gabriel can literally just be a solo, carry. Gaius is going to be up here. I don't have to say any more about him. You know what he does. Amazing in every single content at R0, and you get him at R6, he just performs even better. Hall is PvE. Helena is just a hard no, just don't. Hangyue is PvE. Hyde is going to be up here as well. Look, if someone ever drops an R6 Hyde into you, there's a very high chance, right, that shit cannot go your way very quickly if you disrespect him. I have played games in many different occasions where I just let an R6 Hyde pass, and every time I touch him, he just counter-attacks and counter-attacks and counter-attacks. And a game that I was supposed to win immediately got turned into a game that was unfavorable for me instantly. Like, if you're playing an Inferno unit, say a Sander, and your Sander hits into him and he crits in both his S1s on your Sander, your Sander is dead, he's still alive. At that point, you already lost your biggest damage dealer against Hyde. And you just lose the game. So, he's gonna stay up here because people draft him, chances are you already feel uncomfortable, you already feel cringe, right? Ife is going to be PvE, Intisar is PvE. At R6, then she has a chance to come up to here. But if you do not have her at R6, she is going to stay down here where she belongs, for me at least, because I only have her at R2. Jacob is PvE. Jean is going to be PvE. JJ is up here. He's fallen from grace. He used to be up here. But with all the cooldown up aspects that has been released, Ethan, CJ, Elliot, JJ is just so bloody hard to play because his entire gimmick revolves around demon mode. If he doesn't get into demon mode, you're probably going to lose the game, right? Jiangman is the queen of PvE, so I'm just going to put her right up the top here. There, that looks better. Kara PvE, Kaylee PvE, Laura is going to be up here as well, right? Reason being is that she favors playing into, heavy frenzy. And what heavy frenzy means is that you play till, your healing efficacy goes down to 0. And she actually just bypasses that because she plays with shields. She gives your team shields, which is technically, looping the entire idea of, not gaining any more HP. So she's very good in the late game, especially if you can identify that your opponent has a very weak draft and doesn't have a lot of strippers. Chances are you're going to out-sustain him, and you're going to enter the late game at a far bigger advantage. Lauren is going to go to PvE. Layla is a hard, fat no. Leon is going to be PvE. Lewis is up here. He's one of my favorite Espers, but at the same time, he is also not one that you're going to put up here where you're just going to feel uncomfortable seeing a Lewis being drafted into you, right? Because chances are, you have not played him enough to know that he's scary. You're just going to deal with him in whatever way you can. But if you disrespect him, that means you have already lost an Esper in your draft. Alright, and it's going to become a 4v3 very quickly. And it's going to be a 4v2 even faster if you don't deal with Lewis quick enough. Liao is going to be probably the singular only 3-star Esper that's going to be up here. Because for one, he is an Inferno speed lead. Number 2, he is one of those Espers that if you draft him, you are immediately playing a 4v3 matchup, meaning that you're only going to have to fight 3 supporters since you're going to be eating up the DPS, who is going to be rather slow. And that is very manageable. You're not dying, but you at the same time, you've already gained such a massive advantage just because the DPS could not do what it was wanted to do. And by the time the DPS comes out of the dumpling, you should have your S3 ready again to put him back in that dumpling, right? Li Guang is going to be hard stuck plat. If you're drafting her, you're probably stuck in plat because she doesn't do enough. Her kit looks good, but in reality, this is more of a, in theory, it's good, but in practice, it's kind of shit. Same with Liling, right? Liling is also hard stuck plat. He's fallen from grace. He's basically just a PvE Esper, in my honest opinion. Lin Xiao is a PvE Esper. Longmian is going to be a hard stuck plat. There are better speed leads out there now that immunity is running rampant right now. So it is very difficult to use Longmian as a speed lead. when you have, you know, Ollie, you have TA, you have, you know, currently just added into the mix Yuhime, and we have Liao who does a better job. Since also Liao has the strip, just so you know. But yeah, if you're drafting Longman, you're probably hard stuck in Plat. Lucas, on the other hand, goes up to not Jinio and company, but still amazing. We know that if you draft the Lucas into us, chances are you're going very fast and you're going to be playing CC. So I have to plan ahead if you're going to be starting off the draft with Lucas, right? Same with Loyan. Loyan is also going to be up here. He is very good into tanks. Everyone should have him at R6 as well. So if you disrespect him and you don't draft an armored into him, or you don't draft enough Inferno DPSs into him, very likely you are going to lose the game because you're playing with 50% max HP capacity in, like, you know, 2-3 rotations. Even worse is if he is on Ocean Waves. So you have to respect this pick, especially if you're a tank player. Louis PvE, Lin PvE, Meredith PvE. No, Melanie PvE. Meredith is up here. She is amazing and she's free because she's now in the Ripple. So make sure you go and hunt your R6 Meredith. And yeah, there's nothing more to say. She's very easy to build because she doesn't need crit. She does a ton of damage on her S3. She heals with her S2. She gives speed up. She does spells on S1. Like, she does a lot for you, especially when you're playing against a bruiser matchup. So I highly recommend. Mona PvE. Nama is hard stuck Plat if you're drafting him. He has the same problem as Chloe, but he has lesser applications in PvE, right? So if you're able to pull an armor off, good on you. But very likely if you go past Plat, you're never gonna pull that off ever again. Nick is just I wanna just say no. Like, if you can gear him good and gear him well, I'd rather you use his gear on, you know, like all of this Espers up here and make them even better. Nicole is going to be hard stuck Plat. She is good and I like her kit a lot, but the problem with her is that she is too fucking slow. Her base speed is kind of garbage, so she can't really do what she needs to do, right? Skadi is just an Esper you literally get just so you can, you know, get your average, but that's about it. Ollie is going to be up here. Speed lead, you know, is always valuable. He prevents your Espers from dying. At R2, he prevents them from dying 2 turns. And his S3 is a defense break and a taunt, which is very, very strong. Now, Ophelia. Unfortunately for you guys, if you're drafting Ophelia, you are hard stuck Plat. Simply because there are so many better DPSs out there right now. And the only time you're ever going to pick an Ophelia is if you're going to, you know, do an aggro or cleave draft. Which chances are, if you take this Ophelia and she slams into, you know, a high or an average, you're gonna get counter-attacked. Or if, like me, I run my hide on Frost, there is a chance you're gonna slap into him and get frozen. Or you're gonna slap into an average and the average is gonna counter-attack, put miss rate up, and you're not gonna do any more damage than you should have. And because her pursuit is a singular attack each time, there is always a chance of you proccing Avatara or average counter-attack every single time. So by the time you hit that S3, she's dead. Unfortunately, that's the reality. Don't do it. Pritzker is all the way up here in Jinyu Yao and company. Trust me, if you've played enough games in RTA, you will know that if this person is drafted into you, this old man is drafted into you, your opponent has already identified a weakness in your job, which is there is no immunity. So that Pritzker just immediately becomes a red flag, and you'd go, whoa, shit, I gotta ban this, or I'm gonna lose. Because if you don't do that, you have disrespected him, you are going to get your entire team stunned, you're going to lose an entire rotation, he's going to put speed down on you, so he's going to lap you 10 times over his entire team. And then, because you have a debuff on you, he's going to stun you again with his S1. And then he's going to repeat that cycle, and it's a very vicious cycle, trust me. It's the worst. Then we have Q, which is a hard no. Raven is going to be up here. Then we have Renzi, who has fallen from Grace all the way up to hard stuck Plat. There's way too many ways to deal with him right now. You know, he can have standoff, that's all well and good, but then there's also such a thing called, you know, Nuwa, which, you know, cooldowns up. There is things like Ethan that cooldowns up, so yeah, he's gonna stay there. Then we have Sally, who is going to be up here. Doesn't matter if this Sally is R0 or R6. This is going to be the meta-defining composition because this in itself deals with CC pretty damn well. At R6, you just feel uncomfortable. At R0, you would hope it is manageable. So, she's gonna be up here, next to Jin Yu Yao. These two are right now the meta composition. Sander is going to be up here, but most likely going to be here. Reason being is that if you ever see a Sander drafted into you and you know that you're not fast enough to outspeed that Sander, look, something is getting pushed all the way back and stunned and about to die. Sander is that strong, okay? This guy is a secret Nat 5, if anything. This is a secret 5-star. So if you guys have Sanders, make sure you have it built for RTA and PvP purposes. Sienna is also going to be up here. Now, I know you guys are going to be like, yo, what the fuck? Why is she up there? Listen, man. If you have ever played enough RTA to know this, Sienna will actually ruin your day, right? If you see a Sienna drafted into you, at least for me, I'm going to be drafting a shit ton of Espers that puts immunity up consistently, or Espers that starts with, you know, light above set. Because the last thing you ever want is the game to go into game and have Sienna rip her S3 into you. You get reset, your AP gets reset, and worst of all, if it is R6, you get stunned for 2 turns. You're gonna lose 2 turns with her putting up speed up and attack up. You're getting lapped left, right, and center by every single Esper unit in the opponent's team. So trust me, there is a lot of instances where if you see a Sienna drafted into you and you know you cannot deal with Sienna, you have to ban her, and you are forced to ban her regardless. Stuart is going to be PvE. Tang Xuan is a hard stock plat Esper if you are going to draft him in RTA or PvP. Tang Yun, PvE. Hercules is going to be up here because he is the only Esper available to us right now that does anti-revive, which is very good, especially if you bring her into an Abigail. Bring him into an Abigail, sorry. Teva, you are hard stock plat if you draft him, but for me, he's going to stay here because I don't have him. So I'm going to leave him here. TA is amazing because she is a speed lead for 1. Number 2, she does a lot of AP manipulation. So if you're playing aggressively, what you can do is you can take the first turn, go through your rotation, then use TA to reset that rotation with her S3, go again, then stun them, and then, you know, push back a specific Esper, and now that her S1 does silence as well, you just have a loop going, right? So Tia is actually very good. Tricky, I don't have to say anything else. He's all the way up here. He is one of those, you know, really annoying strippers that you have to deal with because he hard counters cleanses as a stripper, which is ridiculous, right? And then he is being coupled with, you know, Zeus sets quite often, so the second he rips his S3, you're just praying that none of your Espers got stunned, which is very unlikely. Or at least one of them is getting stunned. I don't have to explain any more about Tricky, you all guys know what he does. Unas as well, you know what's happening a second and Unas being drafted into you, you're getting cleaved. So you're either doing one of 2 things. You're either going to race him, or you're going to tank down, take the beating, and then come back and knock him the fuck out. One of the 2. Regardless, the second and Unas is drafted into you, it's a heavy telltale sign and you start feeling uncomfortable, especially if you're a slow player or if you're not comfortable with your speed. Anki Chai, PvE. Xiao Yin is amazing, especially if your opponent draws a shit ton of, you know, single target DPSs. You just drop a Xiao Yin in there, and if they disrespect it, you win the game. Hands down. Su Hua, PvE. Yun Chuan is very good, especially in R2, which you guys should have already because you guys need it for PvE contents. But in RTA, he's also very strong because he puts speed down and he puts a unique miss rate up on everyone, right? And his turn economy in RTA is actually insane. It's mental, right? Because he's gonna attack anyone with a seal that your allies has attacked. At R6, he gets even more busted because he will win you games you were not supposed to win simply by just blocking that attack. So your opponent can literally just say, oh, I got 15%ed by Yun Chuan and lost the game. Because it happens, because I've done it. I've won a game where I was not supposed to win. A Brewster S2'd into me, and I entirely blocked the entire attack, and I just killed him off the backswing. Zelma is a hard no. Zhongnan is a hard stock plat. He doesn't strip, and his entire kit revolves around him, you know, putting on silence to do cooldown up things. If your stripper gets banned, Zhongnan is not doing anything for you. Zora is PvE. Changji is up here because this fucking nerd is so damn strong. I'm gonna put him here, right here. Okay, this nerd is way too powerful for his own good, especially when you get him to R2 itself. He starts doing things that you are extremely uncomfortable with. If you don't kill an Esper and you leave that Esper on 1 HP and Changji takes a turn, guess what? Your Esper is dead, not his, because he's going to swap the HP and your AP. So he is one of those Espers that you must have a way to deal with him, and if you do not have a way to deal with him, well, good luck. Daniel is PvE, Ambler is PvE, Ethan is up here because anyone who drops an Ethan into you is going to be an R2 Ethan. It's never ever a R0 one. So we're going to talk about him in R2. He is going to start stealing turns from, your team because you have drafted a ton of AP pushes or AP manipulators, and he's just going to keep stealing turns based off that. At R6, he gets even more, cracked, since he's going to give it to all his teammates. Jinhee is very strong because if you draft this into an Everett with a Jinyu Yao in the team, I can assure you that Everett is staying dizzy dazed forever. Because she's going to rip the S3 into Everett. Everett's going to get stunned because it can't miss. It's a silver border stun. Jinyu Yao cannot get rid of it because it's a silver border stun. You're going to get a turn. You're going to hit that S2. Reese steal all of his AP and you get to move again, and he goes pushed all the way back to the back of the AP bar. So yeah, you're never gonna move. Then we have Koharu, which is a PvE Esper, Pami PvE, Camille, I don't have enough data, so I'm gonna put it in PvE. Elaine is very, very good, but here is the problem with her, right? Her coding is horrible because her S3 is considered an AoE, right? Because she starts with, an AoE stealth dispel, it is considered an AoE attack, so you're gonna proc a lot of avatars, you're gonna proc Frost Set, and like that defeats the entire point of her being in stealth. But if you draft her correctly in the right situation, she does a lot of damage. Now, her sister Leora, I'm not being biased here, I'm being, as truthful as I can, because I have done almost the most intensive, RTA practice with her. She is insane because, for starters, you draft her in a bruiser match by herself without attack buff. She gives herself attack buff for 1. She is very hard to kill because she goes into invincibility and standoff. So she's a very sticky character, right? Not only that, she melts any Inferno or Flow support or DPS like butter. If you draft a Jinyu Yao into me and I pick Leora into you, there is a very high likelihood that you are going to lose the game because your Jinyu Yao is only going to be there for 2 turns. Uday is very good. I will put her up here because mainly because she is a cleanser. So your opponent can take the entire turn, do all their CC bullshit, and as long as Uday is not incapacitated, she's going to fully cleanse your entire team, will provide attack up, and you get to fight back. Then we have Pata, who is in PvE for Fafnir. And lastly, we have Yuhime. And I'm gonna give you guys a reality check right now. Listen, if you're drafting Yuhime, this unit does not do a lot of damage if you do not get any Hell Hand stack, because that is an entire gimmick, okay? If you don't get any Hell Hand stack, you do fuck all damage. Her S2 hits like a fucking jelly. It's so bad. So don't even worry about, trying to do a lot of damage with her because that's never happening. Her S1 relies on her Hell Hand stack to do a shit ton of damage and also to provide immunity on you. But you're never going to press that because you want to extend your buffs consistently with, Hell Hand stacks, which chances are it's going to deplete, and the second it depletes, you lose the game. So really the only thing that she provides for your entire team is literally just the speed lead. But in my honest opinion, if you're drafting her, you are hard stock plat. I'm sorry to say. So that's where she is going to go. Alright? Now, that is going to be my definitive tier list for, the anniversary patch at least. And if you liked it, like, comment, subscribe, do all that jazz. I'm going to leave a imager link of this in the descriptions down below so you can check that out. Join our Discord. But yeah, this will be the video, guys. And I'll see you in the next video.